pass out. Traffic pass.
I'll have to come before 6.
Okay. Okay, well, welcome to the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors. This is a special meeting due to some of the emergencies that we've experienced in some parts of the county. So, in any case, welcome to this special meeting. And first of all, it's a call to order, and could you do the roll?
Sure. Supervisor Pine?
Here.
Supervisor Groom?
Present.
Supervisor Slocum?
Here.
Supervisor Canepa?
Here.
President Horsley?
Here. So now we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Is there any public comment?
There's no public comment right now.
Okay. If there isn't any, thank you. Next is item number 5, the ratification of a proclamation for local state of emergency from the storms of January 23rd, 2017. Does anybody make a presentation on this? Brian, Captain Zamora?
Good morning, Mr. President. I'll kick things
sorry.
off. I'll kick things
Thank you.
off. We do have a few of our departments here to do the presentation. So we've got 2 parts to the board meeting today. The first is on Crystal Springs Sanitary Sewer District, and that is the action before you today to ratify the proclamation of a local state of emergency. And then for that, we have Alma Zamora. Captain Alma Zamora is here from Sheriff OES that will speak to the proclamation, and Ann Stillman from Public Works and Ann has a slide presentation. And then we'll pause and have the board discuss and take action on the item. We also have Miles Hancock here from Planning and Building, as well as Joe Lococo, who can provide an update on Scenic Drive, as well as other events that are occurring around the county due to the recent storms.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Maltby, Mr. Myers. I'm Captain Alma Zamora, representing the Sheriff's Office and Office Area of Emergency Services. Last week on Thursday, February 2nd, it was brought to the attention of OES that there was new damage caused by the storms that occurred in early January. The new damage was discovered on January 23rd, and that damage is located at 1560 Seneca Lane, unincorporated San Mateo, at the Crystal Springs Sanitary Sewage District. Due to a landslip, the sewage pipe shifted, causing significant damage, as you will see in the presentation by Public Works. The land there continues to slip. Once the Office of Emergency Services was notified by Public Works and determined that the damage was significant, I believe that a proclamation was appropriate and therefore communicated that to the county manager's office. Initial damage assessment was estimated roughly at $3 million, and approval of this proclamation will facilitate reimbursement under expenses under the California Disaster Assistance Act, as well as state or federal reimbursement for resources expended in response to this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Zamora. Any questions? Okay, there aren't any.
Good morning, President of the Board, board members, Mr. Maltby, Mr. Byers. I'm Ann Stillman, Deputy Director of Engineering and Resource Protection for the Department of Public Works. And I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about the damage that we've seen on the Crystal Springs County Sanitation District. So this map is just showing a part of our district, the Crystal Springs County Sanitation District. This is the area right here where we have suffered some damage to our sewer pipeline. It's actually in an easement line, which means that it's not on a roadway. It's actually behind properties. And sewage from this upstream area all flows down through this line, through the easement area and, off down the hill. So this is the approximate location of the sewer break. This is a picture of what we found on January 23rd. We were notified that there might be a potential problem in this easement line, so we went out to take a look, and this is what we saw. This is a access road, which is really, there's no vehicular access, it's foot access only. So when we're out there servicing the line and cleaning it every 6 months, we're doing it with field crews, walking, carrying hoses, and cleaning the line. So the line actually runs around in this area up here. You can see the land has moved. This is looking in the opposite direction. This is looking essentially in the northerly direction. And our line is off to the right of the screen over in this area. This is what we had to do in terms of temporary measures because the line was severed, and we worked to try to recover both ends of the lines and actually put a temporary piece of pipe in between. We weren't able to do that in the first day that we learned of this, so we were actually pumping sewage from the upstream manhole to the downstream manhole to ensure that at least the sewage would be heading in the right direction and not through the break in the line. So this is the upstream manhole that we're looking at right here. What you're seeing in this picture is you're seeing that our pipeline is back in this area. So here are our crews, the sewer crew with the help of road division crew members digging away and trying to find and locate our pipe through that, through the debris and the soil, vegetation, everything. And then what we've put in place is some sort of a temporary structure where we've had some plywood and some wood to try to keep this area exposed. This is our existing sewer line. This is the line that broke, and this right here is a temporary connection, and then downstream this is a bit of a flexible pipe where we've made a connection. I heard yesterday that the land is continuing to move, so this is sort of moving a bit, so we're looking at what sort of a better temporary permanent fix can we put in place until we can really get out there and do a permanent fix. As you can see, everything is pretty muddy, difficult to get out there, and especially with the lack of vehicular access, it makes it even more difficult. And this is just a picture to show you. This is looking in the downstream direction. So in the easement line, you can see these are just some indications of soil movement. Our sewer line is over in this area, but this is sort of indicative to some of the slopes that we have in the Crystal Springs area, because as maybe you were involved in or have a recollection, we've had some landslides or mudslides out there in the past. And this is looking in the opposite direction, so this is looking to the south. This is our downstream manhole, and this is the temporary pipe that you can see that's dumping sewage into the downstream manhole. So that concludes the presentation that I have for you today. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Any questions?
I have a
Supervisor
couple
Pine?
questions, if I may. Thanks for the presentation, and photographs are really helpful. So we first became aware of this on the 23rd of January?
Yes, that's correct.
And how do we even kind of learn about this? Is the neighbor's sewage? Because it's all hidden away in these easements.
Through an email that John Niblum received. And then John Niblum forwarded the email to myself and to Jim Porter. And then we went out and took a look, and some of the pictures that I showed you is what we found. So it wasn't the residents notifying us, but it was somebody else.
Must have been walking in the area.
Porter Goltz, I think, is somewhat involved with Highlands Rec, because what I didn't mention is that, this is an easement area, and on the original subdivision plans, there is an easement at the backside of these lots for sewer lines, but on the westerly side of that, it's all owned by the Highlands Rec District. So what you'll see up here, hard to see, but there are homes up here.
Yeah.
So those are the homes that are on Seneca, and then if you go towards the back of the lot, back here is where there's an easement that was dedicated originally, I think when the subdivision was established, for sewer purposes.
And for the record, Supervisor Pine, Porter Goltz is the, general counsel for the Highlands Recreation District. So he contacted our office.
Gotcha.
And how he learned of it, I don't know. I haven't had direct
Good
conversation.
thing he spotted it. Mm-hmm. And has there been any sewer leakage, during this whole episode where
Well, when the pipe was severed?
Yeah, or
yes.
to what extent was there?
Well, we learned of it on the 23rd, so we have done what we needed to do, which was put information into the sewer overflow database. We've recorded that, but we have to establish a start time. And really, the first we learned of it was around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning on January 23rd. And then we had...
Yeah, somewhere prior to that, there was the break.
Yeah, potentially.
And then we heard about it and then did the temporary fix. Okay, thank you.
And our easement lines back here, we're on a 6-month rotation in terms of cleaning. So the last time we were out there was November 7th. I mean, it's just helpful to know we are out there on a pretty regular basis. So this is a pretty new occurrence that we think happened as a result of the recent storms.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks. Raina, are we going to have something on scenic now?
Mr. President, if you want to take action on the proclamation now, the proclamation is to ratify the local state of emergency for Crystal Springs Sanitary Sewer District.
I would make the motion to ratify the proclamation for local state of emergency resulting from the storm of January 23rd, 2017.
Can I just suggest one quick cleanup item before there's a second? It was pointed out to me a few moments ago that the actual proclamation inadvertently refers to the special district as the Crystal Springs Sanitary Sewer District, but it should instead refer to the district as the Crystal Springs Sanitation District.
I will amend the motion to say that the resolution should say Sanitation Sewer District.
Actually, I'm going to.
Not that either.
It's actually to be very specific and accurate. It is the Crystal Springs County Sanitation District, and we just don't want that to be a hiccup. So let's get it right. Okay.
I will amend the motion to have the resolution read Crystal Springs County Sanitation District?
Correct.
I'll second that and point out that it's taken me many years to know that acronym. I know it now.
Very good. Okay, so all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, I know the board joins me in expressing appreciation to the men and women of the Public Works Department. Looking at these pictures, you really get an appreciation of how difficult the conditions are like this when they have to make emergency responses, and they just do a marvelous job. And I know they have all of our appreciation for the work that they do.
Agreed. Some information now on scenic?
Yes, Mr. President, we wanted to give you an update on Scenic Road. We have Miles Hancock here from Planning and Building.
Good morning, Mr. President, board members, Mr. Maltby, Mr. Byers, Ms. Ferralis. Let's see here. So we've got an update on the Scenic Drive properties. We have 3 properties that have been damaged. This is the street on Scenic Drive in front of or near 345 Scenic. This is the property that is behind, or the headscarp of the slide that is located behind 340 Scenic. It's currently dropped somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 14, 15 feet. Oh boy. So we have a vertical cut right there due to the slide. This is a photo that was taken roughly around January 12th. You can see the separation in the driveway. This is at 345 Scenic. This is taken about January 30th, and you can see the separation again. There's paint marks on the concrete slab, and you can see by the paint mark the separation that keeps increasing. Again, 345. This residence is basically rotating on its axis, and it has moved in this photo, which is approximately January 30th. It's moved 8 feet off of its foundation. Again, another shot of the same residence continuing to move, and the interior has been completely torn apart by the slide. This is the looking at that same residence from the back. You can see the tree falling in the slide. That's the presentation on those scenic. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Yeah, actually, I do have a question. I know that there are 3 houses, and I know I've got a call from the battalion chief yesterday, and I know he called me again today, and it's it continues to move, and it continues to affect additional properties. And I know that there's a state declaration that allegedly covers, as far as I understand it, covers our costs and our damages, but it does not cover the homeowners. And I just wondered, why we did not do a local declaration. Why could we not do a local declaration for those areas now, so that those people, those homeowners, may be eligible for help from FEMA? So I guess that's not really a question to you. It's really a question for our county council, county manager's office, if we could look into that. Because it is a continuing problem. It's continuing to drop. When I first heard about it, it was a drop of about 6 feet. Now it's 12 feet. And it was, at first it was 1 house, now it's 3. And as I understand it from talking to our battalion chief out there at CAL FIRE, he tells me that there are more than the 3 houses that are at risk. That he says that they're going to be 5, ultimately.
I think you'll hear in a minute also there are some other events around the county, so we're looking at the possibility of doing another local declaration later this week that would come to the board as this one did today on the 14th for your ratification, and we could include the original damage in that.
Okay. I know there's also one in Seal Cove as well, another home that probably is at risk. I think you've been out there?
Yes, we've been out to many of the properties that are in danger,
Okay.
that we're notified of.
So for today, that's it. There's no other report on damages or...
I think that you might have a public works report.
We have Joe Lococo here from Public Works.
Good morning, honorable supervisors. Mr. Maltby, Mr. Byers, Ms. Ferralis. I'm Joe Lococo, Deputy Director, Public Works Road Services. So, today we just wanted to give you a little heads up as to some of the other things that we're taking a look at. Scenic Drive, obviously, is kind of a prominent one. What I wanted to do on Scenic is I wanted to go ahead and I stuck a pin over here which just identifies the location of the landslide. It's significant in that Scenic Drive is the widest and most properly graded road to the upper part of the community. So there are different ways to get around throughout the La Honda area. But for example, right now, instead of taking a 20-foot wide, well-graded road, if you need to go to the upper part of the community, which is behind the yellow pin, you're driving on roads that are maybe 10 or 12 feet wide. So they're narrow roads. They're not great access, especially if you have construction vehicles or delivery trucks going up there. You saw some pictures of Scenic Drive right at the site. Here's another shot. This yellow house is one of the houses that has been red tagged. It's immediately uphill of the houses that Miles was showing in his photos. And this is the road too. Initially, when the slide occurred, we did our best to go ahead and continue the drainage along the ditch, which goes along the side of the road near the barricade there. But what was happening is on a daily basis, we'd go ahead and put some pipe in, we'd kind of bridge it, everything would move, it would fail. So essentially, we're not able to control the water through this site, but what we've done is we've set ourselves up to control the water around the street so that it goes down the ditch, it crosses the street, it goes away from the slide site. And so that's what we're continuing to monitor right now, make sure that we get any water that falls in the area around the corner and on the local streets, that we're diverting it away from the site. So this is Scenic, or that was Scenic. Basically, we are out there pretty much on a daily basis taking a look at it. As Miles suggests, it is actively moving. Right now, we don't know that the perimeter of the slide is shifting very much, but within the zone that's sliding, it's rapidly moving. We're seeing changes on a daily basis. I think even this week we'll probably see some significant changes. Other things we wanted to point out are there other locations that we're keeping an eye on. This is on Gazos Creek Road, and there are about 8 locations on Gazos Creek Road where there is some erosion occurring at the outside of the road. This basically showed just some loss of road where it had narrowed to about 13 feet. Problem here was the creek was cutting directly into the base of the embankment here, and so we had a lot of vulnerability at this location. Whoops. So this is a location where we went ahead and we did some repairs. So we had the crews out there, and this was just in advance of a large series of storms earlier in January. We lined the entire embankment with these large boulders to go ahead and provide protection for that section of road. What I want to bring to your attention, here's from the bottom, is that this was the worst of the areas on Gazos Creek Road that we had seen at the time. There's another area now where we've lost a couple of feet of road. It's starting to get a little bit critical. We're keeping an eye on that. If need be, we're going to look at probably similar repairs. But there are 8 locations on Gazos Creek Road alone that have some critical areas just because the slopes are so steep on either side. So Gazos Creek, we're keeping a very close eye on. Don mentioned Seal Cove. That is another area where there aren't any dramatic photos to show you. But Seal Cove is an area where a couple of years ago, we went ahead and built an alternative access into the community. The reason for that is there are a lot of fault lines that go right through the community. There's vulnerability on really the main access road, Ocean Boulevard. And so there's concern, and all the geologic reports suggest that ultimately Ocean Boulevard will fail. Right now we're starting to see several inches of settlement on the northern section of Ocean Boulevard that is currently open. So we're doing our best to regrade the areas as they settle, to go ahead and provide continued access to the community. But there are some signs of something that might grow into something larger. And so when we talk about future declarations, Seal Cove is a site that we're very in tune to. We're going to try to monitor very closely. And if there's greater action that's needed, and if a declaration is appropriate, I think we'd come to your board at that time. Generally speaking, and this week might be pretty critical for us, we're just keeping an eye on a lot of things. There's a lot of little slides that are coming into the road that we're cleaning up. We do think that things have become so saturated that there is a reasonable possibility by week's end that we could have a larger failure somewhere. Generally, these are the rural coastal areas that are hit the hardest. On the Bayside, we've actually been in pretty good shape other than regional, little localized flooding that's come and gone. But we're keeping an eye on these sites, and as it was suggested, there may be a time where we come back to your board and look to expand this declaration to include some of the more significant failures that we may see. And with that, I'm happy to address any questions that anybody may have.
Any questions? Thanks, Mr. Lococo. Just for those of you who don't know where Ocean Boulevard is at, actually parts of it are already in the ocean, and it's pretty close to the distillery, which is kind of a long time, restaurant over on the coast side. So it's pretty, though the distillery is not at any risk, but that's one of the areas where Ocean Boulevard is pretty close to, and it's failed some years back, and I guess it's getting worse. And we did have to improve the roads up in Seal Cove just to make sure that people have access in and out of that little community up there. So thanks for the report, and thanks for all the work that DPW does, especially those people that in that just sloppy, muddy, cold, wet. That's a tough job, so thanks. We appreciate that.
The guys do a terrific job.
They do. Yeah.
It's not easy work, and especially now, I mean, we've got guys working weekends.
Yeah.
And they're out there and they're really taking care of business. So I'm proud of the team.
Yeah, you should be.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? No other business. So in that case, we will adjourn. Thanks very much.